Hi, I'm Spiders, and as a top player who has fought a wide variety of opponents, I've gained an understanding of each weapon class and how to use it effectively, so let's get into it. Starting off with the light weapons, first up we have Dagger. Now Dagger has the fastest swing speed in the game, so pretty much everyone top time, everyone that's trying to win fights should be running Hold Down 1 or using a macro, since that just makes the effectiveness of daggers go way up, makes them way stronger. The best daggers right now are probably the Cerulean Thread, Alloyed Tonto, or the Alloyed Wailing Knife. However, I will say that these did just receive pretty big range nerf of only 0.5, which might sound small, but I can tell you in a fight, this small difference can definitely be noticeable, so it is worth noting. With Dagger, you really want to be trying to stay close to your opponent in order to make up for this range downside, so your playstyle with this weapon should be pretty up close, and quite aggressive as well. The next weapon type we have up is Guns. Now guns, most people would say are relatively weak right now, but they do still have some cheese playstyle that could work I guess with the bullets, since bullets can be really good for like ranging people I guess, although you know it's pretty cheese for sure. But if you're running guns, the best gun right now is probably the Alloyed Dawn Shot, since it just has the best stats, and the playstyle you want to go with is probably rangy / passive, since you have the advantage of having long range bullets, which you probably want to take advantage of. The next weapon we have up is Rapiers. Now the main feature that differentiates Rapiers from other light weapons is probably its crit. Now Rapiers have a really powerful crit, but does a few light weapon attacks with the Rapier that all do full damage, so if you're able to confirm these hits, Rapiers can be really powerful. For that reason, if using a Rapier, I highly recommend using an attunement that has a guard break mantra, such as Ice or Flame, since these guard break mantras are really good for confirming that powerful crit. The best Rapiers right now are either the Kairos Drezzo or the Skull Piercer if you want bleed, but you can also run the Golden Swordfish if you're able to get that, although all it does is give you 0.1 extra range over the Kairos Drezzo, so I don't know if it's really worth it, but that's up to you. Now the final light weapon, and one that most people would probably say is the strongest right now, is Fist. Now Fist is very strong right now for a lot of reasons, some of which are damage, which is really easy to get a lot of on Fist because there's some Master's Armors that pair really well with Fist. Its animations, which are really hard to read since Fist doesn't like actually have like a real weapon, it kind of just uses your hands, which is pretty hard to see. And one last really big one is its lack of end lag, which makes it extremely powerful in combos, especially if you really know how to utilize hit stun. So for that reason, I recommend using Fist with quick, strong mantras. The playstyle with Fist is pretty combo heavy and aggressive, so if you're someone who really wants a strong build right now, Fist is a very good choice for that, so definitely keep that in mind. Moving on to the medium weapons, we have the classic sword. Now playstyle wise, swords are pretty balanced, since you have to be more careful and you can't really be as aggressive as with light weapons, otherwise you'll just get punished for your lack of swing speed. Swords are also pretty versatile since they kind of have a mix of everything with weight, range, decent swing speed, and solid damage as well, so you can really do a lot with these weapons. But yeah, that being said, there are a lot of really strong medium weapons, and depending on which specific one you run, your playstyle can kind of differ. For example, if you're running the Kairos Blade, you can really work around the chip and get a lot of free damage from that, or if you're running the Alloyed Katana or normal Katana, its crit is very powerful, so you want to be using that a lot. Some other good options are the Warden Ceremonial Sword, or the Shatter Katana, which are really popular as well as the Worm Tooth, which I think is technically a medium sword. Overall, very balanced weapon class, and the next one we'll be doing is the Spear. Now Spear is actually my current main weapon class, so I like to think that I know quite a lot about it, although people do have pretty mixed opinions about Spears. Some people say that Spears are pretty passive and people just sit back and use the range, while other people think that they're more aggressive with the crit, as well as the hitbox. Now me personally, I think that there are people that definitely play both sides, whether it's passive or aggressive, but I think that an aggressive playstyle is probably better than a more passive playstyle with Spear, because the two-part crit can really apply a lot of pressure. And especially if you're using a strong spear like the True Seer Spear, which a lot of people are running right now, you need to be able to play aggressively in order to take advantage of its chip. So yeah, that being said, the crit is very strong with the spear. I really recommend using that. Although some people do think that the Alloyed Trident Spear, which is another good spear, has a pretty good crit as well, so you could use that. So yeah, all that being said, spears are a pretty solid weapon class right now. Next up we have the clubs. Now clubs are probably pretty weak right now actually. Ever since they nerfed the crits for all the clubs, this weapon class has really not been doing too great. So I'd sort of advise against using this class. That being said, its main defining feature is indeed its crit. So if you are going to use this weapon class, you should still use the crit a lot, although its effectiveness is really not amazing these days. The best club is probably still the Sacred Hammer even after they added new clubs, because I believe that the damage stats are basically just better. Now the last medium weapon we have is the rifle, which is honestly a very underrated weapon type right now. Basically, rifles just have some really janky mechanics that make their swing speed really inconsistent and hard to read, as well as some other weird stuff about them that I won't really go into too much detail in this video. But yeah, rifles often swing a lot faster than they say, and they have less parry stun because of that. So yeah, very strong weapon class. And the best rifle is probably the Iron Blunderbuss right now. So if you're going to use a rifle, you should probably use that. Or the Storm's Eye, I guess, if you're on Thunder. And finally, moving on to the heavy weapons, we have the Great Axes. Now honestly, before we get into this, I will say if you're using heavy weapon right now, you really should just be running like some Blessed heavy weapon, since heavy weapons as a class as a whole right now are really not super strong. So to make up for that, you really want to be running a really powerful weapon. So for the Great Axe class, the two weapons that come to mind are the Grand Sudruska and the Pale Briar. For PvP at least, there's some other decent ones as well that are okay, such as the Alloyed Halberd. But those two are really what I would recommend using right now since they are much stronger and much more abusable than the other great axes. The best feature of these two weapons are that they have very strong crits, so you should really make sure to be using that a lot. Besides that, these weapons have a pretty big range as well, so you can be pretty far from your opponents while using them. That being said, you can probably play these weapons kind of passive if you want to, and just take advantage of these abilities, or you can play more aggressive and try and go for guard breaks as well. It's sort of up to you. But yeah, one more thing that also goes for pretty much all these type of weapons, they have very strong uppercuts, so you should probably use that as well too. Next up, we have the great swords. Now again, you really want to be using a very powerful greatsword right now, so I recommend using either the Pyre Keeper probably, if you're okay with being a little cheese, the Crypt Blade, or the Kyre Seeker, since those are also two really good heavy weapons right now. The playstyle with greatswords I'd say is pretty similar to great axes, there aren't really too many differences. But yeah, with these weapons I really recommend combining them well with their attunements, since in order to use heavy weapons these days, you can't really just run them super on their own, and having a really nice supporting attunement is really good. And last up with the Great Hammer. Now the main feature that Great Hammers have, that separates them from other heavy weapons, is having way more weight, and some of the highest weight weapons in the game. Because of that, with Great Hammers I'd say you want to play somewhat aggressive with them, and you want to be mantra feinting and feinting a lot, so that you can be able to hit block, and posture break your opponents. Great Hammers really aren't that popular these days, but the Pale Morning, Sovereign's Punishment, Petra's Anchor, and the Hybrid Juvis maybe are probably some of the stronger heavy weapons right now, and are quite good especially in overworld where people are kind of laggy and not really paying attention as much. This makes it much more easier to land heavy weapon hits. So yeah, definitely go for a lot of guard breaks with the Great Hammers. That's its main special ability, and you definitely want to take advantage of that. That was my quick 6-minute guide on the basics of how to use each weapon class effectively. Like and subscribe for more top content, and I'll see you in the next one.